So Tammy, let's just start off with kind of what's the overall, why are we here? What are we talking about today?
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, we want to maximize the employee experience, and the member experience as well. Currently, we have a few high-volume branches, transaction volume branches in the Capital District. They have, lines out the door on a regular basis. The pace is very different there. And what we find is that we constantly have openings in those branches, so we're bringing in new employees to those branches, and it's not a great training ground for them, right? So they're not able to spend the time with their mentors, they're not able to attend trainings, review policies and procedures, they're just not able to get the best employee experience as a new employee in one of those branches, one of the high volume transaction branches. So that's why we're implementing the differential.
And tell us a little, so we're implementing what we're calling a high volume differential.
Yeah.
So tell me what that means and how you think it'll solve the problem you just described.
Yeah, so ultimately what we'd like to do is make sure that in those high volume transaction branches, we have internal experienced individuals in those branches, right? That way the member experience is much better, and we're implementing a differential a salary differential to attract those folks to those branches. I don't like that at all, Ken.
Okay.
Hate that completely. Okay. So ask the question again for me.
So, and if you could say what we're doing in your response, but what is the high volume differential we're talking?
Yeah. So maybe I should start. Let me just start from the beginning, kind of like what are we doing? Again, I'll do the whole story of why. So,
I remember we're going to pull sound bites from this, so don't feel like you need to give us everything in a long, drawn out thing.
Right.
And start and stop.
All right. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is maximize the employee experience, the best employee experience possible, which leads to the best member experience, right? And currently, we have 3 high-volume branch with high-volume transactions in those branches. We currently also have a number of openings regularly, consistently in those branches that we're filling with external hires. It doesn't allow for the best employee experience from a training ground perspective. Right? It takes new employees a little bit longer to process transactions, which ultimately affects the member experience. So our goal is to make sure that we fill all of the positions in those high volume branches with internal talent, people who are already experienced in the SEFCU policies and procedures, and allow our new employees to train in branches where they can spend time with their mentors, review policies and procedures, and attend trainings. So that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is fill all of the roles in those high volume branches with experienced internal talent from SEFCU. So to do that, one of the things that we're doing is implementing what we're calling a differential in those branches. So ultimately the folks in those branches will be rewarded for the higher pace through a pay differential that we'll implement in the higher volume branches.
And there are 3 high volume branches.
There are 3 high volume branches: Latham, Patroon Creek, and Wolf Road.
And so the employees that work in Latham, Patroon Creek, and Wolf Road are going to receive a pay differential.
Correct.
What is it, and how does that work exactly?
Okay, now I can answer that for you, but that's what Stephanie's going to do later too.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, because I want to make sure, but let me answer it for you anyway.
So, yeah, so again, we're going to...
Sound bite, yep, sound bite. So what is a differential? Really, it's an addition to somebody's normal salary. And it's in place only while they're in that particular location to recognize the difference in pace, right? And for us to also attract internal talent to work in those branches. It is a great opportunity for internal talent from a development perspective, right? They will have an opportunity to experience all of the different types of transactions that could occur just based on that volume, a number of different members and circumstances associated with those members, which will just build, again, their career development, ultimately building on their SEFCU resume as well.
Tammy, how does this tie into kind of our overall perspective on the member experience and how we want to provide these opportunities, but also make SEFCU that destination that people want to come to and stay?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the objective is to provide unmatched service and value to our members, right? And part of that is when they are visiting the branch, a really positive experience, right? So typically when somebody comes in for a transaction, they want an expedited experience, right? They want to get in and out. And in these high volume branches, again, the more experienced talent within CEFCU should be able to provide that speed just based on their knowledge and experience within CEFCU. So, I mean, ultimately, again, we're trying to provide the best member and the best employee experience possible. Training in one of those branches is not a good employee experience. It's really difficult for somebody to be brand new and training in one of those branches.
What else do we need to touch on? I mean,
it relates to the transformation, I guess.
Yeah.
Should we tie that in at all?
Yes, we should. We talked about the high volume, what that means.
Sure.
Billy's going to get into the details about truly what the volume looks like there versus other places, so he'll be able to really paint that picture.
Yeah.
Gary will as well. So you've set the stage. Yeah, I guess the only question is really how does this tie into CEFCU's overall, the transformation that we've been experiencing for the past year plus?
So this is completely in alignment with the principles of the transformation. I mean, ultimately, unleashing the potential of the employees. As I mentioned before, it's a great career opportunity and development for internal talent to prepare them for their next role, so unleashing their potential, but also associated with maximizing the employee experience, right? And again, for a new employee to have their first experience in one of those branches, it's just really difficult. So it's totally in alignment with the transformation from that perspective.
So given that there's going to be this differential, people that work at Patroon, Wolf Road, and then Latham are going to be making a little bit more money.
Yeah.
What does that do for those folks that aspire to be in those places because they want to get a little bit extra?
Sure. So, I mean, obviously, we would encourage anybody that's interested in one of those branches or in the experience to post for one of those positions in one of those branches. And yes, they'll be compensated for it because of that higher pace as well. So what it does for them is it provides opportunity for career development and to be rewarded for the pace that they're going to experience while they're in one of those branches.
So we want the best of the best in those branches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, right, what we look for in our branches, member specialist, MSA, MSL, is the same throughout CEFCU, right? We're looking for the same competencies and same skills and background. But in these branches, yes, these individuals in these branches have to really be great at what they do, and they have to be able to handle just that faster pace. So they need to know the CEFCU policies, procedures, and they just need to be able to know how to stay calm under pressure as well, because they will be in that fast-paced environment on a daily basis consistently. I don't know, that was all that great. So you can ask anything you want again.
That was good. The first part, that was
ask
good.
Again if you want, and I can.
Is there anything else you want to touch on or add, something that we didn't think to ask you? Or to
take a small step forward.
Good? Okay. I think it's a great opportunity for internal folks, as I mentioned before, from a career development perspective, to build that CEFCU resume and at the same time get a little extra in their pay for taking on the extra pace from a consistent, daily perspective. So I think it's a great opportunity for our internal employees.
Now, this is all going to be how we frame it and put the piece together, but that's not to say that the other branches aren't as valuable.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, as I mentioned before too, the competencies that we look for in all of our positions within the branches remain the same. And all of the branches are very important for, from a transaction perspective, from a loan volume perspective. So this isn't to say that these branches are more important than any of the other branches that we have. That's not the case at all. It simply is, again, that transaction pace. And the people in there need to be experienced folks. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we are not having those branches be a training ground for any of our new employees. It's just not the best place for them to train. So for us to do that and attract that internal talent, we're hoping that this differential will help provide the incentive that they need to post for these branches, spend some time there. And Gary probably should touch on that as well. Like the fact that these branches are not like, special in any other way. They're not.
I feel like when Gary comes, he's gonna be like the little doll that girls had. You just pull the string in the back and he's just going to
let him go. Right, and that's probably the case. You may not need to use any of what you just got from me. Gary may be able to do he may just do the whole
he's
thing.
He's so good at, like, even just like talking with him. He lets stuff roll around.
Yeah, so this goes without saying. If I'm not in this at all because everybody else was able to take care of everything, I don't need to be in it. You know, if you find that
no, I mean, we've got some good stuff.
The role you have.
This is also another opportunity to put.
Do you want to ask a question, Ken, or you want me to just?
Okay. I do. I'll prompt you.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier about these high volume branches not really being the best place for new hires to train. And we've seen that currently that it is becoming the training ground for a lot of our new hires.
Sure. Yeah. Well, actually what we found is that 25% of our new hires in the Capital District in the last year were placed in one of those branches for their training ground. And that's, I mean, 1 out of 4 new hires are training in our busiest branches. Just, again, not the best employee experience, which ultimately is not the best member experience. So.
But now we're changing that.
But now we're changing that, yeah. So that we're, again, our hope and our goal is that 0% of our new hires are training in one of those branches, right? They should be training in a branch where they have time to spend with their mentor, participating in training and reviewing our policies and procedures so that they feel comfortable and acclimated to the SEFCU environment.